Hey everyone, Rascal here.
And Mama, welcome to our podcast.
Today we're covering another Disney Plus exclusive movie, Flora and Ulysses.
Now this movie is based on the children's book of the same name, which we both read and was absolutely fantastic. Now, it follows the 8-year-old cynic Flora who meets a squirrel whom she believes is really a superhero. Just when you thought there could not be a worse movie than Artemis Fowl, this movie follows almost nothing from the book.
Once again. But before we start, be sure to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get updates on future podcasts and World of Paws videos.
And more Disney fly by the seat of their pants movie
right.
trips.
And it seems like Disney, or Disney Plus at least, is in the habit of just really going off the rails. There was a point when, even when they didn't get everything right, they got the core part or the spirit of the book right. It's like, okay, they made some little changes, but you know, you did a good job doing it anyway. They don't do it anymore. After Artemis Fowl, they just gave up on everything. Now it's just like, we're going to make our own movie based off your idea. We can do it better. Yes. That is now the attitude of the Disney adaptation.
I'm going to call them Disney fan fiction movies.
Yeah.
Now, the best part of this movie was Ben Schwartz. I know that's horrible. The best part was Ben Schwartz because it was like seeing Dewey in a live-action movie. And then the squirrel was really cute. The little digital squirrel was really cute. And,
well, they had three of the DuckTales cast in here, like Danny Booty and the woman who does Kate Michucci, who does I almost said Jasmine, Webby's voice.
And those were the best parts of the movie.
Unfortunately, yes.
Now, as you know, if you're our Artemis Fowl fans who watched the atrocity called the live-action movie, Rotten Tomatoes gave it an 8%. Well, they should have given this movie a 1% because the only thing right in this movie was the title. They didn't even call Flora by her whole name like the book did.
Yep.
So, I'm sorry, the squirrel was called Ulysses, so 2%.
Yes. Yeah, this movie derailed from the very start. They were really trying hard to make this a modern day superhero movie, and they even compared it to Marvel superheroes. They didn't even really use the fictional heroes other than, what was the guy's name called? Oh heck, okay. They used a fictional superhero within the book that Arthur made up.
But Disney took the opportunity to include all of the Marvel heroes in this story, which just didn't fit the book itself or the story itself.
Flora leads superhero comics in the original book. She does this here, but it's usually generally only Marvel. That she sells her DC stuff, which I guess was a jab at DC.
Which doesn't happen.
And she sells her old DuckTales stuff, so she only reads Marvel at this point, which makes no sense.
I think that was our foreshadowing of them canceling the series. If you watch the series and you saw this movie, I think it was foreshadowing, and we didn't realize they were telling us, hey, DuckTales is on its way out. Yeah. Sorry.
Right?
Up yours, kids.
So, yeah. And she's supposed to be a cynic, and in the book, she really is. And when Ulysses comes in, she starts to leave that cynic thing behind because she wants hope. She's not supposed to have hope. She just observes, but she loses the cynicness as the story goes on. But in this movie, she's not really a cynic. She says she is, but just like Artemis Fowl saying he's a criminal mastermind. Yeah, I'm a criminal mastermind. Well, she's a cynic, but she isn't. She's the most happiest cynic in the world.
Right.
Not one time does she doubt anything.
Now, let's get to the characters before we get deep into how this movie is not the book. First of all, none of the characters resemble the characters in the book at all.
Right.
I mean, absolutely positively not at all. Flora looks nothing like her book character, which was really cute. She had really short cropped hair. She was like Holly. She had really short hair.
What's with you, Disney?
She had glasses. She had little striped shirts and her little skinny pants. And she was really adorable. And they called her Flora Belle.
Yeah.
And Disney decided they didn't want to put that bell on the end of it for whatever
reason.
No. So she was only called Flora. And in this movie, she looks nothing like the girl. And as you said, she's not cynical or questioning anything.
She just believes everything from the start. They keep in the origin of Ulysses, but there's no inner monologue. There's no voice of Ulysses, period.
But that's all that they kept. Before that, none of the characters, the neighbor,
William
Spiver, nobody looks like the characters in the book, which just seems to be their forte as well. Then you get to Ulysses. He's supposed to be a superhero squirrel, and in the book, they had all these little instances where he used his superhero powers, and we were like, oh, this is going to be a great movie. We can't wait.
Even
to
with the
see
trailer.
it happened. The trailer shows the one superhero moment the squirrel has in the entire freaking movie.
The flying, the landing, the straight. That's it.
None of the other things that happen in the movie, including when he first gets his powers and he lifts the vacuum cleaner that he gets sucked in before he obtains his powers. None of that happens. Nothing happens except for he helps save the dad by punching somebody out, and then that scene in the trailer where you see the flying,
and
is part of that scene. That's all he does. They didn't want to pay to digitize, draw, whatever way it was going to take for them green screen to provide superhero stunts.
Exactly.
By a squirrel. They didn't want to do.
You can put all the Marvel in, all these Marvel references, but you won't animate a superhero squirrel. You got Squirrel Girl, but you won't animate an actual squirrel.
And I think that was part, getting back to that when you were mentioning Marvel, them having superheroes that exist that we don't know anything about, added to the fun of the book. The book was wholesome. It really is just fair reading for anyone of any age, not just kids, but it was wholesome, it's fun, it had that kind of feel of where this is a time, you're not sure what the time period is, you're not sure what
it's supposed to feel a little
past.
They
had phones and things, so you kind of know maybe it's not that far back.
It's not like Gotham.
Right. And it had this feel of where it's just fun, and it's like you were in Metropolis.
Yes.
That's what the feel was. Well, Disney managed to ruin all of that.
Of course they
by
did.
adding Marvel. And it takes you out of being in this fantasy environment to our world. Well, you don't want it to be in our world because a squirrel having superpowers wasn't going to happen. And no, Squirrel Girl isn't mentioned in here.
No.
But it was just the book's otherworldliness and the time period not being sure and the fun and just I can't even describe it. It's like a game. It's like being in Metropolis with Superman.
Right.
And it was destroyed when they introduced Marvel heroes.
Exactly. And then before we get to more about Ulysses, they introduced other superheroes besides the one. There was one superhero that Flora really, really liked because he was a really shy, nerdy guy. All he had was a best friend parakeet. He became super powered and he could save anybody, and she looked up to that. In this movie, he's basically Shazam, and he's good looking, and he's just the manliest man to ever man. And it's like you missed the whole point of that superhero that she aspired to
Right.
do.
In the book, he was mild-mannered. You wouldn't pay attention to him on the streets because he was just average.
Right, that was the whole point.
Right, and it was wonderful that this particular character got those powers. On top of that, then they started talking about Iron Man and Captain Marvel, and it's, of course, you know we love the characters. That's not it. They just did not belong in this movie,
right?
Because they weren't a part of the story in the book, and they did not need to advertise their own superheroes.
Exactly.
We already know they belong to Marvel.
Yeah.
Marvel had no place in this movie.
Exactly. Now we're getting back to Ulysses. They're supposed to be the superhero. He's not really a superhero. They even took out, for the book, he gets like a voice. He hears you can constantly hear his inner thoughts. And it's a voice where you're meant to save the world. You're a superhero now. He's like, oh, okay. And from there, he has gained more intelligence, and he's more conscious about everything. He has like human level intelligence. He doesn't speak, but you hear his thoughts. And we thought they were going to have a voice of Ulysses until we watched the movie, and he doesn't say anything in his thoughts.
And it doesn't make sense because, again, that was part of the endearing. That's the word
he could understand. Right, and now that he had an understanding of everything, he wanted to know everything. He loved Flora. He loved donuts.
He loved nuts.
Yeah, he loved nuts. He loved donuts, scrambled eggs, jelly sandwiches. He loved poetry. There was so much stuff he loved. He was trying to find a way to express it all. And here,
and one of the ways he expressed that they didn't even touch on here to the end of the movie, which made no sense whatsoever. I'm like, ugh. He would type on Flora's mom's typewriter. She was supposed to be a romance novelist, and she was cuckoo. And they also will touch on that too, how they took that out. And again, it just wasn't Flora and Ulysses. So he would get on her typewriter and he would type out messages to Flora. Or when he wanted someone to know what he was thinking, he would type them out. He'd type out poetry.
Yeah.
And again, that was part of the book that was like, oh my gosh, this is just fantastic. Didn't happen.
Exactly.
Not at the end of the movie. And then at the end of the movie, we're going to tell you because don't want to see his crap. What really was fantastic at the end of the book is he typed up this poem because Flora's mom asked, why would you want to be here? You know, what's your purpose? What do you want? And he wrote this beautiful poem that touched on everything that he loves. And it was fantastic and beautiful. Disney cuts it off a third way through the poem. And ends the movie.
They just mentioned the food.
And ends the movie.
Yes. They just talked about the food.
And ends the movie.
Yeah, it's like, next thing you know, he goes out in the woods and now he's gone.
The movie.
It's like, what? That's how you end the movie?
In the book, he ends up staying with Flora and her mom. And you can go to the library and check out the book. I don't care what age you are. It's a fun read.
Yes.
And then you'll understand why, if you decide to go into this movie of darkness, why this movie is just horrible. There's no other way to put it. And listening to us, we don't badmouth and dog movies. This movie was horrible. Again, the best thing about this movie was Ben Schwartz.
Yeah.
And they managed, somehow, having the brilliant, funny, fantastic, wonderful, amazing Ben Schwartz. Yes, we love him. And they managed to not even capitalize on having him in this movie.
Right.
They just did not even allow him to use the full potential of his comedic action.
His talents.
His talents. Later on, they let it come out, but in the book, her dad starts off, just kind of silent and quiet, and he just wasn't enjoying. Right, he was sad. He wasn't enjoying life. And then once he awakened, it was like, wow! But they didn't allow Ben to do this in the movie. He's got acting range.
Yeah.
He could have done it. You've seen him in more than doing voiceovers. We've seen him in live action movies. He has great talent. They didn't allow him to use it.
Exactly.
And it was like, why would you not allow him to?
He stayed boring
portray
almost the whole
all these
thing.
different layers that the dad had in the book.
Yeah. And then you have two other characters that they changed. William Spiver, who looks nothing like the boy in the book.
That's correct.
And he went from this very intelligent boy to the blind boy joke. The whole joke is that he is blind. He runs into things. He can't see this. He falls over.
Which did not happen in the book at all. They did not disrespect that at all.
Right. His entire purpose, except for one scene where they told you how did he become blind. Other than that one scene where he told Flora how it happened, his entire point in the movie is just to make blind kid jokes, and none of them were funny. It just seemed more disrespectful, especially if there are kids listening to the movie. It will just seem, and then they get to a point where he got over something, and then he magically gets his sight back. No explanation. He just said something of comfort, and then his sight miraculously returned with no explanation and no context.
And finally, they ruined the happy ending of the story where he lived with Flora. You don't know how it turns out. You hope there will be another book, but there won't. And Disney decides to ruin that. As we said, they cut off the poem a third of the way. They kick him out of the car and send him back to the wild where he never was. He never lived in the wild. He always was living in the trees around Flora's house.
Exactly.
And then they end the movie. So no happy ending. No character development.
Right.
No fun ensuances from things that happened that just could not happen in real life. No superhero moments for Ulysses except for one. And the last thing we have to tell you about is the stupid dog catcher they put in this movie.
Yes. In the original book, the mom was kind of sort of the temporary villain of the book. And they even built up to it. I guess Disney didn't feel comfortable with her being the villain, just like they weren't comfortable with a 12-year-old supervillain. They weren't more comfortable with the mom being a villain temporarily. So they made her an absolute joke and wrote a whole new character who's this disgraced animal hunter, and all he's obsessed with hunting squirrels because they ruined his career. So he makes it his life's mission to capture this one squirrel, tranquilize it, and just kill it as soon as he can. And this is in the family-friendly Disney Plus account.
And it just wasn't, the scenes that he had in the movie were not funny. You were sitting there just waiting for the scenes to end because they weren't humorous. They were just they went on too long. They were just stupid. There's no way to put it.
And in the movie's message of, thinking about your plays and what's going on bigger
the
than
book's message.
Right, the book's
movie had none.
Right, the book's message had this thing of like knowing what things meant to be when they seem random, but really they fall into place, and your purpose is becoming clear. Just with Ulysses and with Flora, and everyone was changing. He was changing everybody around them and helping them become better.
And how everyone can grow.
Yeah.
And become more of whom they are meant to be.
Right.
That book had that wonderful message, and every character in the book, every single character that appeared in there grew. There was character development in every character in the book.
Right, and you could finish that book in an hour, but you could see all the development in there was perfect. And here, no one went through development at all. They just went from one thing to the other instantaneously, and then that was the end of their arc.
So if you've had the unfortunate experience of reading the book, being excited about this movie, forgetting Disney had it, and how that normally turns out, and you've actually seen this movie, let us know what you think in the comments below. If you haven't seen it and you already have Disney Plus and you're not going to get it just to see this movie, don't. Check it out at the library and then give the movie a watch. And then let us know what you think in the comments below. Did we really exaggerate? I don't think so. And just give us your take on why this movie is actually worse than the Artemis Fowl live action movie.
Right. And be sure to like, subscribe, and notification bell to get updates of future podcasts and load of Paws videos.
And hopefully
any other adaptations Disney wants to destroy beyond compare.
Yeah. So
thank you so much for watching. I'm Mask Entertainment.
And I'm Mom Entertainment.
Have a fantastic day.
Peace.
And reporters sitting flashing lights, trying to walk around, man, who the hell are you? What you wanna do? Well, man, it's on you. Man, it's on you. With her in my dreams, she was my queen. A castle in the mountaintops, rivers and streams, plucking sunlight from the sky in my pocket.